This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content, and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode may contain slight spoilers surrounding Starbringer. There are also mentions of the Crave series, Firefly, Breakfast Club, and Ice Planet Barbarians.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are welcoming a very special guest and our new friend,
who is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, Tracy Wolff. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Welcome.
I am Tracy Wolff, and I'm so excited to be here today. I love you guys, and it's really awesome that I was invited on. I'm really grateful. I am the writer of Starbringer, as well as the Crave series and a number of other books, and I'm just excited to be here.
And we are so excited that you took the time. Thank you so much. We have so much to talk about. Jess and I have read the book, and we're going to kind of tread a middle line with spoilers to keep it interesting for everybody. But I think I really just want to start off by asking, how did this happen? We have two writers on this book, a beautiful sci-fi romance book. Can you kind of take us through concept to first draft?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, my publisher, who I've worked with many times, but particularly on the Crave series most recently, my editor, Liz Pelletier, was launching a line called Red Tower, which is a brand new line for Entangled. And she came to me and asked if I would be interested in writing one of the launch books for the line. The first launch book, of course, was Fourth Wing, which I think a lot of people have heard of at this point. And Starbringer was the second one. And I said, yeah, of course, I'd love to. And she wanted to have it be sci-fi. And I've always wanted to try my hand at sci-fi. I never have. I've written paranormal, I've written fantasy, I've written contemporary, but I've never written sci-fi. And I'm like, yes, I'd love to try. And she says, well, great. She says, I actually have another author who I've worked with many times, and that's Nina. And she said, she's really great at like sci-fi world building and, all of that. Would you be interested in working with her on this book? And I was like, yeah, of course. I love Nina's books. I'd love to. And so she kind of put us together, and we spent a lot of time. Thankfully, Nina said yes, she wanted to work with me as well, so that helps. And then we spent a lot of time going back and forth on what we wanted the book to be. Our editor's concept was she wanted Firefly, which, she wanted an updated version of Firefly, something amazing, basically a space opera, right? And Firefly is one of my favorite things ever, but I've always kind of wanted to do the Breakfast Club in space. Like, I thought that would be so much fun. And so I said, well, why don't we do a Firefly meets the Breakfast Club kind of a thing? And she and Nina both kind of, I guess, really liked that idea. So we kind of ran with that. And we spent several months, actually, because in the middle of all this, I was on tour for 3 months. And so it was logistically really interesting, especially because Nina is in Spain. And we spent, I don't know, it was somewhere between 3 and 6 months, literally, kind of going back and forth on who we wanted the characters to be, what we wanted the plot to be, and where we wanted it to go. We passed the first 50 pages back and forth, probably 7 or 8 times, I think, something like that. I don't remember exactly. Trying back and forth between Nina and me, and also back and forth between our editor a couple times, getting feedback on what she thought of it and where we were. And after we got the first 50 pages, we were kind of off to the races. We knew where we wanted the plot to go. We knew what we wanted to have happen. So that is the story of the book, I guess, of how it came to be.
That is so exciting. Now, you mentioned that this is your first time kind of dipping into sci-fi. My question for you is, you have written in lots of different genres, and Nina has as well. Was sci-fi something that was maybe a little intimidating, or it was just something that you just hadn't gotten around to yet, or saving for a special project?
Oh, I think 1 and 3. I think sci-fi is, of course, intimidating. There's so many brilliant authors writing in sci-fi. And so many brilliant women authors, I think, who have kind of paved the road for Nina and I to kind of jump in. Nina, of course, has done some sci-fi romance before, but I have not. And we're huge nerds in my house. Star Wars, we trade Star Wars lines back and forth. My children are obsessed with every kind of space science thing anyway. So it's also a little, it's intimidating because I mean, some of my favorite authors are Ursula K. Le Guin, Andy Weir, are incredible sci-fi writers, and I can't do what they do. Like, I wouldn't even know how to do the real technical stuff, particularly that like Andy Weir does. I think he does brilliantly. But I was very, very nervous about even trying to attempt anything. And Starbringer, as you know, is very different. It's much more of a space opera. It's 7 people trapped on a spaceship with the entire galaxy wanting to kill them while they're trying to figure out why, and also trying to save the galaxy that seems to want them dead. So it's a little different. It's not this technical kind of sci-fi that I love to read that I do not write.
Did you have a favorite part writing it, knowing, like, you love The Breakfast Club, you love Firefly, and it's translated so beautifully into the book? Was there a favorite character that you wrote? And then did you have a favorite character overall? Like, it's so, you could have so much fun writing a character, but like ultimately this person's development, because they all have really wonderful character arcs in their journey. It's not just because they're all the main character, even though we have 3-4 POVs in this book.
Thank you so much for saying that. Actually, the way we did it is Nina did a lot of the world building, the initial world building, and she wrote the first draft, and then I came in after we worked out where we wanted to go, and then I came in and I wrote the second draft, and I really concentrated on beefing up parts of the plot, but also the characters and the relationships. That's kind of what I've always been good at as a writer. That's kind of my strength. And so that's really what I worked on. So thank you so much for saying that about their different journeys and their arcs. And yeah, did I have a favorite character? It's so funny. When they ask me this, I tend to go, oh yeah, I have a favorite character. And then I start listing like 7 of them because there's 7 of them. How about we start with the character that I did not think I was going to like at all and who grew on me. And that is Merrick. Like, I was not sure about Merrick at all. And he was kind of in there to serve a purpose, and I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. He was in there so I could kill him, and he didn't die because I fell in love with him. I couldn't murder him.
You gave yourself your own plot twist.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I did. I was like, no, Nina. Yeah, and Nina actually agreed. She fell in love with Merrick too, so we were on the same page. So that was very exciting. Because I was going to cry so hard if I had to. There's a character in the Crave series I had to murder who was one of my favorites, and I still haven't gotten over it. So anyway, I was like, please, let's save Merrick. And so anyway, Merrick was a sleeper character. He really grew on me. But I don't know. I really love Beckett. I love Beckett and Rain. Rain, I think, is Nina's favorite character. But I think Ian and Callie are a lot of fun, too. I think it was really nice being able to concentrate on 2 different romances in here because I think that they evolved very differently and the characters themselves were very different. And it was really a lot of fun to be able to try and do justice to both relationships. But, yeah, maybe I have a soft spot for Beckett. I really like her.
And there's a beautiful recognition that the characters have within each other about, like, you know what, we're in a way, we're cut from the same cloth. We all have our own issues and traumas and how it's kind of manifested in how they've handled the situations, emotionally too, and what they're bringing to, like, the forced proximity on this sentient spaceship.
Oh yeah, that's my catnip. I absolutely love like playing with character motivation and what would different people do in different situations based on who they are. One of the scenes I really, really loved writing was the scene when Ian decided to stay behind on the planet with Callie, because it's so out of character for him. And he was in no way ready to admit his feelings for her at that point in the book, but he was willing to sacrifice everything, and not just him, but also one of the major plot twists that comes later, right?
That's
that's what I was gonna say. It's like you know now that we're talking about it, because that moment was really like, wow, this is huge. This is a huge development and I remember reading this being like, oh my gosh, okay, speak. When are they going to speak? Speak feelings, then kiss. It was so much fun.
And it was like so juxtaposed to Rain and Beckett, who were just like all in, right?
Yep.
And Callie and Ian were like, no, thank you. This is not my idea of a good time. I don't even like you. But I kind of do. Enough to die for you, so.
Yeah. Well, and we've brought up kind of forced proximity since we're all on this spaceship, which I think is very fair to say the spaceship is itself its own character, right? It's very important. It has its own little personality. I would say I just love it so much. I love sci-fi. I think I should just go ahead and say that I was raised.
Oh, yeah.
I was raised on sci-fi as a kid. So like, this is very special to me. I love seeing all of these tropes, and going back to kind of my question earlier, just to elaborate a little, I very much appreciate the, I would say like approachability of this book because of what you were saying. There is not a lot of technical space jargon. So that complication and that thing that intimidates me about sci-fi is not taken away completely because there is there, but I'm not overwhelmed by that. And I'm able to focus on the progression of this fantastic story. And I'm so grateful to that, so that I'm able to not only approach this book, love this book, and able to understand this book, but also recommend this book to people that may not be familiar with sci-fi. And that is a tribute to you and Nina and your hard work.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We consider it kind of a gateway, right, into sci-fi. I have a lot of readers who've never read sci-fi before. And I love that it's something that they feel comfortable with, but I love that it's also that readers who do like sci-fi find something for them in there as well. And I do think that we worked, to try and balance that out, because, like I said, I know what my strengths are, and I know what Nina's strengths are, and we kind of played to those, and really just wanted to tell a fun, kick butt story with a bunch of really hopefully cool characters that people could fall in love with. And I think if we do that and set it in space and get some people interested in reading sci-fi, then I think that is, that's a great thing. I feel really lucky to have had the chance to do it.
So what is a slog?
A slog is kind of like, I was thinking in my head, like a purple banana slug, just kind of oozy and nasty and long, but much larger.
Much larger. Very big ones. Very big ones.
Very, very, very big purple, like banana sluggy things.
Excellent. That kind of.
I had fun making up the creatures. I did have fun.
That is my question. How did that come about? That to me requires just like this creative ability that I obviously do not possess to make up creatures and their names and their planets and their backgrounds and all of these kind of things. Fantastic. And then to seamlessly blend that into dialogue where you can infer what is going on with the comparisons, with the dress, is just fantastic. It is fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That makes me really happy. I'm glad. I was worried, because you walk this line as a writer of how much detail do I give, you know, of like the Joker rate, for example, or something like that, to kind of let you know what it is, or the slog, but not too much, because nobody wants to read like a 5-paragraph, you know, explanation of what a slog is and where it comes from, and so how do you weave that in? I think it's a fun balance. So thank you, I appreciate that.
I know you said like not the 5 paragraphs, but the character backstories that get added to it. Like I think Callie, I'm sorry, I think it was Callie. She was saying about making up swear words with her dad when she was younger, and it was just you're like, I feel like it's such a special memory, but it adds to the sci-fi journey, because you know the jargon. It just, I can't say enough how much I would recommend this from a sci-fi capacity, because I didn't come from a sci-fi background. I was very much a romance, contemporary romance girly, and I've transitioned to it in just like fantasy and sci-fi in general. And there's such an appreciation, and it can be intimidating. I feel like we're lucky as a book community that it's become more accessible and people are more welcoming, and that hasn't always been the case.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think that in any genre, right, the more people who are writing in it and the more different points of views you get on the genre, I think it just enriches the genre, so that then somebody can find something for them that, you know, in that genre, and suddenly that genre begins to grow. The more people who can find something for themselves in a genre or subgenre, the bigger and more accessible it gets. And I think that is, you know, I think we're all in the business, but also the love, right, of making books accessible, wanting people to read, and wanting to share the joy that we have in reading. I mean, I'm a writer because I've been a reader my entire life, you know. I always tell the story of how I got my first romance novel in the summer going into 6th grade. My mother used to take me to the bookstore every 2 weeks, and we'd get a stack of books to read. And then, you know, we'd go through them in the 2 weeks, and then we'd, you know, by the time the 2 weeks came, I've read them all, so you got to go get more. And I was very lucky to have a mom who prized reading as much as I do. And anyway, that day particularly, we had gone to the bookstore, and the YA section when I was growing up is not what the YA section is now. It was significantly smaller. And, you know, and I had read everything in the YA section, and I had read everything in the classics section, you know, pretty much that was, you know, deemed appropriate for, you know, I was on a higher reading level, but still deemed appropriate for you know, my age. And so I went home, and I admit I was pouting and being kind of a brat, because I had nothing to read, and what was I going to do for 2 weeks with nothing to read? You know, I mean, it's the end of the world. And my mom came out to me with a book. It was a historical romance, actually. And she handed it to me, and she said, "Here, why don't you try this?" And I was like, "Really?" And she was like, "Yeah, just give it a try." And oh my gosh, I still remember it. It was Velvet Promise by Jude Devereaux, and I fell in love with it. I went through the entire, it was a 4-book series. I went through the whole series in less than a week. And they were like, you know, thick books, and I read them. The joke in my family was always like, I read them until they fell apart. Many years later, I got my mom signed copies from Jude Devereaux, and we met at one of the, she was writing for a Random House, and we met at a Random House party, and I asked her to sign them for my mom, because the joke was, you know, my mom had like lost one of her favorite series once she gave it to me. And I've never looked back. I've read all kinds of romance from that day on, and I think I'd always wanted to be a writer, and I think that was really the summer that I decided I wanted to write romance.
I think, and to what you're saying with the historical romance, I think that's like, it takes one person to switch up how you use like the different genres to approach and introduce you to those genres. And Starbringer is that. And is that for a lot of people for sci-fi and sci-fi romance and space opera. And it's so wonderful. Like we've been nonstop reading it, and even the audio, like we've read this, we read the arc, we've read it through audio, like we've read it. And like, what is the medium that Starbringer is in? We've read it in that way.
Thank you so much. It makes me really happy. You know, my fiance is actually a huge hardcore sci-fi reader, had never read sci-fi romance at all. And after reading Starbringer, she's now exploring all different kinds of sci-fi romance books. So it kind of worked the other way too. I thought, like, here's this hardcore sci-fi reader who's now reading like Ruby Dixon books and all that, and having so much fun with them, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was telling her about, she's like, barbarians in space. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Johanna Lindsay back in the 80s, like late 80s, early 90s, wrote a series with barbarians. I'm like, yeah, sci-fi, it's fun.
Well, and now, space aliens are confirmed in the government. So, everything's a go.
Right? Oh my gosh, right? Did you see they were just doing hearings in Mexico yesterday about
the little guy?
Oh my gosh, wow. Okay, this is exciting. We live in exciting times.
It is very exciting times, unprecedented times, one might say. I kind of want to circle back. You mentioned that your mother gave you your first romance book. That is so exciting. In Starbringer, there are some complicated mother-daughter relationships. Relate to that. Love it. There are also some fantastic tropes. We've talked about forced proximity. We know, but if somebody might not know, what are some of the tropes that are in Starbringer? And did you have one that you just knew you had to have in here?
Well, my favorite trope to write ever is enemies to lovers. It's catnip. I mean, it's my favorite to read as well. Like, I will, if somebody tells me, oh, it's an enemies to lovers book, I'm like, oh, let me have that right now. Let's just take that back to my room. So I will always fall for an enemies to lovers. I love to write them. I hesitate to say insta love, but there's definitely insta attraction. With Beckett and Rain, there's friends to lovers because she and Beckett were friends. I don't know. What are some other tropes you guys came up with?
Found family, of course. Of course.
Oh, of course. I found family I tend to think of it as a theme. It's such a theme in my work. I think found family is so important to me. I was an only child, and I grew up very, very isolated from the rest of my extended family. And so for me, like, I've spent my life building a family, and it is, when you look at a writer's work at, the end of their life, and you kind of look at major themes, found family is one that just runs through it for me. It's so important. And it's the family. I was born into a really lovely family. I had older parents, and they were amazing. But also, the idea of gathering the people around you that you choose, as opposed to just the people that you might, be stuck with. I think it's so important. It's a theme that I think comes up hugely in the Crave series as well, which is the other series that I guess it just finished that I have going on.
And some can say, like, sometimes that bond with a found family is stronger because you get to choose, not because out of obligation or anything.
Absolutely. And, that idea of having differences and finding a way to make those differences work for you, and coming out stronger on the other side of it, and the loyalty and the love and the understanding, I think, that comes with found family. I don't think there's anything like it. It is my favorite thing to write.
It's one of our favorite things to read as well, because sisterhood and female friendships are very important to Jess and I. And I think to a lot of people in general, right? We were in the summer of Barbie, and I have to say that the bonding that goes on between Callie and Rain, we have some really beautiful kind of situations here. And then we have, of course, I love a man in a crisis of faith. That is catnip to me. I love a man in a crisis of faith. I love this religion that we have kind of in this world. I love the rebels. I love the Empress and everything that is going on here. My question for you is, did you have just a giant wall with string and things kind of connecting everything? Because the world is enormous. There's lots of different planets. There's lots of politics going on, behind the scenes type of things. How did this kind of get strung together because
how did it get put together?
Yeah, because I have to tell you, the plot twist had me like, really? I didn't see this? So when I went back and reread, I was like, oh, this is real good.
Oh yeah, the Max and Ian plot twist.
Wow.
Is that the one you're talking about?
All plot twists.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like let's just call it the Max and Ian plot twist.
There you go.
Yeah, it was actually really pain. We took a lot of care. I especially when I was doing the second draft of really layering in tiny little moments where when you go back and look at it a second time, you're like, oh, there it is. I didn't know that's what that was. But now it makes sense.
So was it always there?
Yeah, it was always
from the first draft. That was going to be.
Oh yeah, no, it was from very early conception. We knew that we wanted to do that.
That's so cool because I was like, wow. So that was always from the beginning. It wasn't would be interesting right here.
No. That was actually before we knew very much. We knew that we wanted to do that. And it is something different, right? It's especially as you get into book 2 when you see how it's going to evolve. It's very different than what you see in I think regular mainstream sci-fi romance or whatever. But we're in the middle of plotting right now, and we're really excited to explore and see what that looks like. So yeah. But yeah, no, we took great care in layering a lot of it in, a lot of the stuff with the friendships that went through, a lot of stuff with the relationships that went through. And we did not have a giant board with string, although I kind of wish we did. That would be more fun. But it was, we did have a lot of eyes on it, after like I said, we did a lot of plotting at the beginning, and then we had, Nina doing the first draft, we had me doing the second draft, and so many conversations well, how does this work? And why is this happening? And we need to make sure making sure all of that was connected. And then we had 2 editors, and a copy editor on top of them. Everybody was really just kind of, 3 editors, I guess, and a copy editor on top of that, really making sure that everything was, because it is a very big world, and we, wanted to make sure that we didn't miss anything or didn't.
Miscommunication trope cannot be at play with working between you all in this world.
Yeah, especially with 2 authors, right? Because, while we tried to communicate really well and make sure we both knew what we really wanted to do, you want to make sure you never oh, she went this way and I thought we were going this way, and that didn't meet up in the book. That's the worst thing that could ever happen when you have more than one author working on a project. So lots of eyes, lots of care.
Yeah, that was going to kind of be my question, because we know that Nina is in Spain, so you have kind of restrictions when it comes to when you can meet, when you can really work, and sometimes it is just easier to speak face to face or get on a phone call and just or send the voice notes instead of typing out notes and things. Jess and I were separated when we started the podcast. She was in New York and I was in Germany, so we do understand these logistical problems. I cannot imagine, Jess, I'm sorry, I cannot imagine writing a book with you this way.
No, we even when we prepare for our podcast episodes, it's very vastly different styles with our notes, and I'm very bulleted, and she has arrows going all over the place.
I'm an arrow girl myself, and writing all over the page instead of it makes people who work with me just in general who look at my notes, so is there something wrong with you? Who takes notes like this? And I'm I don't know. That's how my brain works. Yeah, it drives people nuts. Yeah, absolutely. I've co-written several other projects because I'm one of those rarities. I'm an extroverted writer, and I love to work with people. I love people, and writing can be a very solitary thing. So I have on 3 other occasions written with in one case written with 2 other people, and other time written with one other person. And they've always been close to me. Tara Childs actually lived several states away, but she actually flew to my house and we wrote together.
Oh, wow.
And that I think helped a lot, and spent a lot of weeks brainstorming and writing together. But Yeah, I think that it's just about, we thank God for Zoom and Google Meets, right? Because I think it would have been a lot worse if we couldn't at least have like face-to-face conversations. Because, nuances get missed, and we all know, right? Nuances get missed in texts and emails, and you're not sure what. So it's, I think, especially when you're writing about something, when you're doing something that most people are as passionate about as writers are about their craft, right? It's very important, I think, to see the other person's face and to make sure that, we really are on the same page, that we're not, being polite, we're not misunderstanding or whatever else. And one of the people I wrote with, Carolyn Childs, had this incredible rule, and I loved it, and I had brought it up to Nina as well. I think it's such a great way to do it. And she said that, when you write, like she and I wrote by passing chapter by chapter. She would write 2 chapters, pass them to me. I'd go over them, pass them back, and then write the next 2 chapters, And so that was, like I said, every time you co-write, you have to figure out what your process is, what your co-writer's process is, and then you have to find a way to meld them together. And since no 2 writers have the same process exactly, then no 2 co-writing experiences are going to be the same either. But with Carolyn Childs, her rule had been, if I don't like something you wrote, I can change it. And then I'll pass it back to you. You don't like what I changed it to. You can change it again, but you can't change it back to what it was originally. You have to come up with another way to do it. And we were all alive. We each allowed like one veto as well, where we could like go in and just be like, no, this is really important to me, and let me tell you why. But other than that, it was like, if she changed it, if I didn't like it, I could either live with it and say, oh, that was better, or I could say, I still don't think it's there, let me change it. And I think that actually works really well, because I think if you look at a scene and you look at it 3 or 4 different ways, eventually you get to the best way to tell that scene, or to convey that information. And so that's a rule that I try to like really incorporate now into any co-writing thing I have is, it's about respect for the author, the other author, I think in general, right? Like, hey, I know you did it this way. I don't really think it works. Let me tell you why. I'm going to change it to this. Oh yeah, let's shift it. I think any co-writing experience, the heart of it has to be respect. I don't think you could write with somebody whose writing you don't respect and whose strengths you don't respect. And I think the goal, right, of any co-writing is to find people whose strengths are different than yours, and then kind of blend them together so that you get the strongest product, that the 2 of you can produce.
Because that's the goal. It's like, what's going to be best for this thing that we're creating? Yeah.
For the story. Yeah. That is always the goal, right? What serves the story best? And ego never does. So it's always about like kind of checking that at the door and saying, let's talk about the project.
That is fantastic advice that I think I might steal and put into other aspects in my life. That is just really wonderful and kind of forces the change in perspective and just like eliminates what you were thinking about before. It's like, no, we're not even discussing it. We're just moving on to something completely different. And to change, that's really wonderful. I love that. How refreshing.
Yeah. Carolyn Childs was a brilliant problem solver about stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. That is just so wonderful.
I'm like writing this in my notes as if we're not recording.
I know.
I'm like, this is so good.
Free advice. Fantastic.
And it does work in other aspects of life too, doesn't it?
It does. Wow. So speaking of projects, we're talking about projects. So this is book 1 in a trilogy. Is that correct?
Yes, we say trilogy. And I always say there are 3 books planned because my last series was planned to be 3 books and it ended up being 6. So at this point, there are 3 books planned. And I think as of now, the way we're looking at the way the arcs are going, I think we're going to stick to 3 books. That is the plan.
Oh, that is absolutely excellent. Now, I know you can't tell us much about book 2. I know this, but is there something in the story that you're just very excited to write? Like something coming up that you're just like, gosh, I can't wait to get to that. Like a big plot point? Or you can't wait for us to read?
I am very excited about what's going on with Rain in this book. And I'm very excited. You know how you said you were, what is it you said you were a sucker for? You're a sucker for...
crisis, a man in faith in crisis.
Oh, a man in a crisis of faith, right, Merrick? I am a sucker for rebels. I love rebels. And so I'm really excited about where that part of the story is going in book 2 with Beckett and with Rain and how this is gonna work out.
can you share if this is, and if you say like, I can't reveal that, does book 2 pick up immediately after where book 1 left off? Or is it like, do we have like a flash forward a little bit?
As of now, do not hold me to this. As of now, it picks up right afterwards. But we haven't gone through editing or anything else yet. So things change. But as of now, we're picking up almost immediately afterwards. Yeah.
That's excellent and very comforting. As everyone knows, there is only one season of Firefly and a movie. So now that we know that there's a book 2, it's like,
season 2.
Okay,
season 2.
Right. It's coming. It's coming.
I don't know if it makes you feel better. My fiance is on me at least 3 or 4 times a week. Like, since you read Starbringer, like, what's going on in Starbringer 2? Like, how is that? Like, what do you mean you haven't really started? Right? I'm like, I am finishing up this book that I'm working on, and Starbringer is the next book. We're in the plotting stage. She's like, but
and you have the spinoff series, because I was going to say, like, you have the spinoff series.
Yeah, I'm in edits on the first book of the spinoff series right now. So we've ended.
So are you very compartmentalizing everything? Like, this is my focus. I have like an idea of Star Wars.
No, Nina and I we're spending time brainstorming and looking at, but we're not actually, and we're plotting, but we're not actually writing anything at this point. And we're talking about maybe shaking things up this time around, maybe writing different characters, as opposed to first and second drafts. We're gonna see. We're gonna take what we liked out of this co-writing process and try and blend it into. Every time you do a project, you try to figure out what you did well, what you did badly, and how do you improve it. So we're kind of in that stage right now.
That's wonderful. And wrapping up, what are your upcoming projects and where can we find you, socials and things?
Oh, awesome. Well, I just finished the 6th book of the Crave series. It came out right before Starbringer. And I am in the middle of starting a spinoff for the Crave series, and the first book is Sweet Vengeance. It comes out in January. I'm super excited about it. It's taken a twist and a turn, and it's a little different, I think, than I originally conceived it, but I'm very excited about it. Starbringer 2. I also have a top secret project that I will be talking about sometime soon, but not quite yet. And you can find me on Instagram as Tracy Wolff Books. That's where I tend to hang out most. I'm also on Facebook as Tracy Wolff and on Twitter as Tracy Wolff. But Instagram's usually the place to catch me doing stuff.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. This was so fun. And this is a platform for you. So we'd love to have you back for any other your other projects. Either way, we look forward to continue to keep supporting you, to support Starbringer and for everything else to come.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And I'd love to come back if you'd like to have me.
Of course.
Of course.
With all the sparkle things. We'll go off so many
all the
sparkles, traveling. We'll go into so many different tangents.
Oh my gosh, yes, all of the sparkly things.
As Tracy said, please make sure you're checking her out on all her socials, as well as Nina Crofts. We'll make sure all of that is in our show notes. And please feel free to join us. We're at ACOFAE Podcast on Instagram, and we're both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks so much, and we hope to talk to y'all soon. Bye.